The transport ship docked at Apex Citadel with a soft hiss of pressure seals, stood at the viewing window and watched the massive space station grow larger until it filled her entire view. The station was home to the most famous military academy in the galaxy. Thousands of alien species had trained here. Warriors, commanders, and legends had walked these halls. And now one human would join them. Grabbed her single bag and walked toward the exit. She was 19 years old with dark hair tied back in a practical knot and brown eyes that watched everything. She stood at 5 feet 6 inches tall. On Earth, she was average height. Here, among the aliens of the Galactic Coalition, she was tiny. The airlock opened and stepped onto the station for the first time. The smell hit her immediately. It was a mix of metal, recycled air, and something else, something alien. She took a breath and kept walking. The welcome hall was enormous. Pillars of dark stone rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Hundreds of cadets moved through the space, saw species she had only read about in files. They were impossible to miss. They stood 8 feet tall with grey skin as thick as armor. Their faces were flat and brutal, with small eyes that burned with ancient warrior pride. Each one looked like they could crush a car with their bare hands. They moved through the crowd like dancers. They had 4 arms, smooth blue skin, and large eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Their reflexes were legendary. Some said they could dodge a laser blast after it was fired. They clicked and hissed as they walked. They were creatures with hard exoskeletons that could stop a blade. Venom dripped from their mandibles. They had conquered 100 worlds before joining the coalition. And then there was small, soft human. She felt the stares immediately. Aliens stopped their conversations to look at her. Some pointed. Others made sounds that might have been laughter, kept her face calm and walked toward the registration desk. Her administrator looked down at her from behind the counter. His eyes showed nothing but contempt. "Name and species," he said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "A human." The administrator paused. His thick fingers moved slowly over the console. "Human, yes, the integration initiative." He said the words like they tasted bad. "You are assigned to Dormitory Block 7. You're a cadet of and cadet of Prime. Your orientation begins in 1 hour." Took her room key and identification card. "Thank you." The administrator did not respond. He was already looking past her, calling the next cadet forward. Found Dormitory Block 7 after 20 minutes of walking through endless corridors. The station was a maze of metal and stone. She passed training halls where cadets sparred with weapons she did not recognize. She passed classrooms where instructors lectured about tactics and strategy. She passed a group of young who went silent as she walked by, then burst into laughter when she was barely past them. Her room was small but functional. 2 bunks were already claimed. The third, smallest one was clearly meant for her. A massive sat on the lower bunk, cleaning a blade that was longer than's arm. He looked up when she entered. His eyes went wide, then narrow with disgust. "This is a mistake," he said. "They have put a pet animal in my room." Set her bag on the empty bunk. "I am Cadet, I am your new." The stood, he towered over her like a mountain. "I am son of warriors. My family has trained at this academy for 12 generations. He leaned down until his face was close to hers. "And I will not share my space with a creature whose bones I could break by accident." "Then do not break them by accident," said. Her voice was steady. "It should not be difficult for a warrior of 12 generations." Stared at her for a long moment, then he made a sound of disgust and pushed past her toward the door. "I will request a transfer. Stay out of my way until then, soft skin." He left, began unpacking her bag. The door opened again 10 minutes later. I entered, moving with fluid grace. 4 arms, blue skin, eyes like pools of black water. She stopped when she saw. "Ah," she said, her voice was soft and musical. "You are the human." "I am." "I am," the tilted her head, studying like a scientist examining a strange insect. "I have read about your species. You are very fragile, your bones break easily. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom, your reflexes are slow, your strength is minimal." She paused. "Why are you here?" "To train," said. "Same as you." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Training will not give you claws, human. Training will not make your skin harder. You will fail. Everyone knows this." She moved to her bunk with an elegant motion. "I do not say this to be cruel. I say this because it is true. You should leave before you are hurt." "Thank you for your concern," said. "I will stay." Shrugged with all 4 shoulders. "Then you are foolish, but that is your choice." The orientation was worse. stood in a hall with 200 other cadets while instructors explained the academy rules and expectations. She was the only human. She was the smallest person in the room by far. The head instructor was a named commander. He was old, his exoskeleton scarred from countless battles. One of his eyes was missing, replaced with a mechanical implant that glowed red. He had fought in 3 wars and killed more enemies than could count. He walked through the rows of cadets, inspecting them. When he reached, he stopped. "Human," he said, his mandibles clicked together. "The integration initiative sends us their first test subject. Tell me, small one, do you know what happens to weak things in this academy?" "They get stronger," said, "or they break." Stared at her for a long moment. "We shall see which one you are." He moved on, heard whispers and laughter behind her. She did not turn around. After orientation, she heard about the betting pool. The whole station was wagering on how long the human would last. The bet was 2 weeks. Some said she would not survive her first sparring match. Had placed a bet. He wagered that she would be in the medical bay before the first combat evaluation. Heard all of this, she said nothing. She smiled politely at the cadets who mocked her. She respectfully at the instructors who looked at her with pity. And at night, when the training halls were empty and everyone else was sleeping, she ran combat simulations until her muscles screamed and her hands bled. She studied footage of every species. She learned how they moved, how they fought, how they thought. She did this for hours every night alone. In his office, Commander reviewed the files of new cadets. He paused on something caught his attention, her designation. Earth Lost Zone 7. Knew what lost zones were. They were planets that had survived extinction-level events, planets that had seen so much death and destruction that the Coalition had given up on them, planets where only the strongest and most stubborn life forms remained. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps this human was more interesting than she appeared. Or perhaps she would simply die like everyone expected. Time would tell. The first weeks at Apex Citadel were exactly as bad as expected. Every day brought new tests. Every test brought new humiliation. The strength assessment came first. Cadets were required to lift weighted bars until they could lift no more. The cadets lifted hundreds of kilograms like it was nothing, lifted 400 and roared with pride. They were almost as strong, their exoskeletons hiding muscles like steel cables, even though with their thin frames lifted more than thought possible. Lifted 60 kilograms. It was a good lift for a human. Here, it was the lowest score in the entire class. The instructor did not even bother to record it properly. He just wrote minimal and moved on. The reflex testing was worse. Cadets stood in a chamber while lights flashed from random directions. They had to touch each light before it disappeared. They were beautiful to watch. Their forearms moved like water, touching lights that eyes could follow. Scored in the top 5 of the entire academy. Scored in the bottom 10. Her 2 arms could not compete with 4. Her human nerves could not match alien speed. The other cadets did not even bother to mock her anymore. She was too far beneath them for mockery. The tactical simulations were her best results. She had to plan battles, manage resources, and make decisions under pressure. Here her scores were acceptable, not good, not impressive, just acceptable. In academy vocabulary, acceptable was the worst word possible. It meant you were not good enough to praise but not bad enough to remove. It meant you were nothing special at all. Accepted it all without complaint. She smiled. She kept training. The sparring incident happened in her 3rd week. The combat hall was full of cadets practicing hand-to-hand fighting. Instructor watched from an elevated platform, his mechanical eye recording everything. Cadets were paired by size and skill, was paired with no one. No one wanted to fight her. It would be like fighting a child. A named stepped forward. He was young, arrogant, and hungry for glory. His family had produced generals and war heroes. He believed he was destined for greatness. Commander called out, "Let me demonstrate proper combat technique on the human." The other cadets could learn from watching a real fight. Laughter rippled through the halls, mandibles clicked. "Cadet, do you accept this challenge?" Looked at, he was 3 times her weight. His arms were thick with muscle. His grey skin was natural armor. Fighting him was insane. "I accept," she said. They faced each other in the sparring ring, did not bother to take a fighting stance. He simply reached out with one massive hand and grabbed by the shoulder. Then he threw her. She flew through the air and hit the mat hard. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. Pain exploded through her body. the hall erupted in laughter. Stood up. Looked surprised. He had expected her to stay down. He reached for her again. This time he threw her even harder. She hit the mat and rolled. Blood appeared on her lip where she had bitten it. Stood up again. The laughter in the hall grew quieter. Something was wrong. The human should be crying. She should be begging for mercy. She should be running away. Instead, she stood and she waited. Threw her a third time, a fourth, a fifth. Each time hit the mat with a sound that made other cadets wince. Each time she stood back up. Her face was bruised, her lip was bleeding, one of her eyes was swelling shut. But she kept standing. By the seventh throw, no one was laughing anymore. The hall was silent, was breathing hard, not from effort but from something else, something like confusion, something like fear. Enough, Commander said, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. The demonstration is over. Stepped back quickly, he looked at like she was something he did not understand. Then he turned and walked away without a word. Wiped the blood from her lip and left the ring. She did not look at anyone, she did not say anything. She simply walked to the medical station to treat her wounds. That night watched more carefully than usual. The human returned to their dormitory late, as she always did. Her hands were wrapped in bandages to hide fresh calluses and cuts. Her body moved with the stiffness of someone who had trained too hard and too long. Had been curious about humans since arrived. Now she was more than curious, she was disturbed. You never sleep more than 4 hours, said. I have watched you. Every night you leave, every morning you return exhausted. What are you doing? Sat on her bunk and began removing her boots. Training. The regular training ends at sunset. What training do you do after? Extra training. 4 arms crossed over her chest. I looked at your simulation records. You have accessed over 300 hours of combat footage from the Academy archives, footage of every species, every fighting style, every technique. Her black eyes studied his face. Why? Was quiet for a moment, then she looked up at, because I do not have claws, I do not have armor, I do not have 4 arms or venom or superior strength. She pulled off one boot and set it aside. I have to learn other ways to survive. Learning will not change what you are. You will still be small, still be weak, still be human. Yes, agreed, I will always be human, but being human does not mean being helpless. Did not understand this. She had grown up on Prime, where physical superiority was everything. The strong survived, the weak did not, it was simple truth. But this human confused her, was clearly weak, yet she would not act weak, she would not surrender, she would not quit. Why do you not leave? Asked. The question had bothered her for weeks. You know you cannot win here, you know you will never match us, why do you stay and suffer? Finished removing her boots, she looked at with eyes that suddenly seemed older than 19 years. Where I come from, quitting means everyone you love dies, so we do not learn how. The words hung in the air, felt cold even though the room temperature had not changed. She did not ask any more questions that night. 1 week later, the announcement came. The annual combat proficiency evaluation would begin in 10 days. Every cadet would face the ultimate test. They would enter the combat arena alone and fight against adaptive combat drones. The drones would study their weaknesses and exploit them. The drones would not stop until the cadet was defeated or the evaluation was complete. Scores would be public, rankings would be permanent. This evaluation would determine everything about a cadet's future at the academy. The betting pool updated immediately. 94% of bets predicted would finish dead last. The remaining 6% predicted she would be injured too badly to complete the evaluation at all. Raised his wager, he bet a full month's credits that the human would break. Heard about all of this, she smiled politely, she respectfully. And every night, alone in the empty training halls, she pushed herself harder than ever before. In his office, Commander reviewed training records, the ones she did not know he was watching. The late-night sessions, the hundreds of hours of footage she had studied, the simulations she had run over and over until she could complete them perfectly. He saw something in those records, something that troubled him. The human was not training like someone who expected to lose, she was training like someone for war. Had seen many soldiers in his long career. He had seen the desperate ones who trained hard because they feared death. He had seen the proud ones who trained hard because they wanted glory. Was different, she trained with a focus that bordered on obsession. She trained with a patience that seemed impossible for someone her age. She trained like someone who had already seen the worst the universe could offer and had decided to survive it anyway. His mechanical eye flickered. The combat proficiency evaluation would be very interesting this year. The day of the combat proficiency evaluation arrived like a storm. The entire station buzzed with nervous energy. Cadets who had trained for years would finally prove themselves. Careers would be made or destroyed in the combat arena. Woke before dawn, she had slept only 3 hours. It was enough. She had trained her body to function on less sleep than most aliens thought possible. Another human trick that no one here understood. She ate a small breakfast alone in the mess hall. Other cadets avoided her table as always. She did not mind. Solitude had become comfortable. She chewed her food slowly, saving energy, her body for what was coming. Found her there, sat down across from without asking permission. Her 4 hands wrapped around a cup of hot liquid. Her black eyes studied his face. "Today is the evaluation," said. "I know." The betting pool closed last night. Final odds are 97% that you will score lowest in the class, 3% that you will be hospitalized before finishing. Took another bite of her food. "What did you bet?" Was silent for a moment. "I did not bet." This surprised, she looked up. "Why not? Easy credits." "Because I have watched you," said slowly. "For weeks I have watched you. You train harder than anyone I have ever seen. You study more than cadets twice your age. You take beatings that would break others and you stand back up every time." Her 4 arms shifted uncomfortably. "I do not understand you, but I have learned not to bet against things I do not understand." Smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. "That is wise." She finished her breakfast and stood. The evaluation would begin in 1 hour. The combat arena was the heart of Apex Citadel. It was a massive circular chamber, hundreds of meters across, surrounded by observation decks on every level. Thousands of seats were filled with cadets, instructors, and officers who had come to watch the future warriors prove themselves. The arena floor could transform into any environment: mountains, forests, cities, deserts, swamps. The adaptive systems could create any battlefield in seconds. No cadet ever faced the same challenge twice. Commander stood at the central control platform. His mechanical eye scanned the crowd, recording everything. The combat proficiency evaluation was the most important event of the academy year. Today, he would see which cadets had true potential and which were merely pretending. The evaluations began. First came the cadets. They entered the arena one by one and faced the combat drones. The drones were nightmares of metal and energy. They could fly, crawl, and climb. They carried weapons that could stun, burn, or batter. Most importantly, they learned. Every attack a cadet used, the drones would remember. Every weakness a cadet showed, the drones would exploit. They fought well. Their natural armor protected them from many attacks. Their venom was useless against machines, but their mandibles could crush metal if they got close enough. Scores ranged from 72 to 85, solid performances, nothing spectacular. Next came they were then the more graceful, more precise, entered the arena and moved like water through the drone attacks. Her 4 arms deflected strikes while her legs carried her in patterns that seemed impossible to predict. She scored 89, one of the highest in her species group. The crowd cheered. Then came entered the arena with his head held high. His people were born warriors. Combat was in their blood. He faced the drones like a mountain facing wind. They hit him again and again, but he barely felt it. His armor-thick skin absorbed impacts that would have killed others. He grabbed drones and tore them apart with his bare hands. He roared with each kill. He scored 84, good but not as high as he hoped. The drones had learned to avoid his strength and attack from distances he could not reach. Went next the who had thrown 7 times in the sparring ring. He fought with rage and power, crushing everything that came near him. His score was 88. He roared his triumph and looked up at the observation decks, searching for. He wanted her to see. He wanted her to know what a real warrior looked like. More cadets followed. Species after species proved themselves in the arena. Scores rose and fell. The crowd cheered and gasped. By midday, the highest score was 91, achieved from a famous military family. And then it was turn. Cadet Human Earth. The announcement echoed through the arena. The crowd went silent for a moment, then burst into noise. Laughter, mockery, excited whispers. Finally, they would see the human fail. Finally, the joke would reach its conclusion. In the observation deck, activated his personal recorder. For posterity, he said to the cadets around him, future generations will want to see this. The cadets laughed, everyone knew what was about to happen. Walked onto the arena floor, she looked small against the massive space. Tiny, fragile, her simple cadet uniform had no armor, no weapons, no protection. She was just a human, just flesh and bone. The arena shifted around her. Commander watched the environmental systems engage. They were programmed to create challenges based on each cadet's weaknesses. For the arena created tight spaces where their size was a disadvantage. For it created environments where speed was less useful than endurance. For the arena created a nightmare. The floor became uneven terrain, strength she did not have. Obstacles rose that needed climbing power beyond human capability. The lighting shifted to conditions that alien eyes could handle but human eyes could not. Every element was designed to expose human weakness. The combat drones activated, 10 of them. They were programmed with data on human physiology. They knew exactly how fragile she was. They knew exactly how to break her. Stood in the center of the arena, she did not take a fighting stance. She simply waited. The drones attacked. The first wave came fast. 3 drones converged on her position from different angles. Standard tactics, overwhelming force against a weak target. Moved. She did not move like she had in training. She did not move like any human the system had ever recorded. She stepped left, then right, then dropped low. The drones' attacks passed through empty air. Their targeting systems recalculated. Missed. Error. Recalculate. His hand shot out and grabbed a piece of debris from the arena floor. She threw it, not at a drone, at the ground in front of a drone. The debris kicked up dust. The drone's sensors flickered with interference. In that fraction of a second was already moving toward it. The observation deck went quiet. The second wave of drones adjusted their tactics. They spread out, creating a perimeter. No human could move fast enough to reach them before they fired. It was simple mathematics. Human speed was insufficient, human reflexes were inadequate, the outcome was certain. Did not try to reach them. Instead, she grabbed a larger piece of debris and used it as a shield. The drone fire hit the debris instead of her body. She advanced, step by step, using cover that the arena had created to stop her, using her enemies' weapons against them. The drones learned, they adapted, they stopped firing and moved in for close combat. Close combat was where humans were weakest, no claws, no armor, no strength. Smiled. She had been waiting for them to get close. In the observation deck, leaned forward. His eyes were wide, something was wrong. The human should be losing, the human should be broken on the ground by now. Instead, the human was fighting. And winning, the arena had become chaos. Combat drones lay scattered across the floor in pieces. Some were crushed, some were torn apart, some had been turned against each other through tricks that the adaptive system was still trying to understand. In the center of it all stood, blood ran down her face from a cut above her eye. Her left arm hung at a bad angle where a drone had managed to strike her. Burns marked her uniform where energy weapons had grazed her. She was hurt, she was bleeding, she was still fighting. The observation deck had gone completely silent. Thousands of aliens watched with mouths open and eyes wide. What they were seeing was impossible. Humans were weak, humans were fragile, humans were jokes. This human had not received that information. The standard evaluation lasted 8 to 12 minutes, had been in the arena for 14 minutes now, not because she was struggling, because the system kept sending more drones. It kept escalating the difficulty. It kept searching for the ceiling of her abilities. It had not found one yet. Commander watched from his platform with his mechanical eye recording every moment. His organic eye had not blinked in 3 minutes. In 200 years of this academy's history, he had never seen anything like this. The human fought wrong. That was the only way to describe it. She did not fight like the combat manuals taught. She did not use recognized techniques from any known species. She fought like someone who had thrown away all the rules and created new ones on the spot. When the drones attacked high, she went low. When they attacked low, she was already behind them. When they adapted to her patterns, she had no patterns. Every movement was different. Every response was unexpected. The adaptive AI that controlled the drones was cycling through strategies than it had ever cycled before. It was confused. Machines should not be able to feel confusion, but this one was experiencing something very close to it. The system escalated again. 15 drones now, all of them focused on one small human woman. The arena floor shifted, creating new obstacles, new challenges. The lighting changed to conditions that should have blinded human eyes completely. Used the darkness. She had trained for this, hundreds of hours in the simulation rooms with the lights turned off, learning to feel air currents, learning to hear the tiny sounds that machines made when they moved, learning to fight blind because humans had spent millions of years as prey animals on a planet full of predators. They had evolved fear of the dark, and then they had learned to master it. She moved through the shadows like she belonged there. Drones that should have had every advantage in low-light conditions found themselves destroyed before they could fire. Their sensors could not track something that moved with such unnatural unpredictability. At minute 16, the system escalated one final time. 20 drones, the maximum the arena could deploy, all of them working together with a coordination that would have overwhelmed any other cadet. Energy weapons, physical weapons, flight capabilities, armor. It was an army against one wounded human. Looked at the swarm of machines surrounding her. Blood dripped from her wounds, her breathing was heavy, her body was screaming for rest, every part of her was damaged and exhausted. She did not stop. Instead, she did something that made Commander's mandibles click with shock. She ran toward the largest concentration of drones, not away, toward. The drones fired, she dove and rolled, coming up beneath them. She grabbed one drone and used its body as a shield against the others. The friendly fire destroyed 2 more drones. She threw the wreckage at a fourth, knocking it from the air. Before it hit the ground, she was already moving. The arena walls had environmental features, support pillars, maintenance panels, structural elements that were not meant to be part of the test. Made them part of the test. She pulled a panel loose and threw it like a disc. It cut through a drone's sensor array. She grabbed a support cable and swung across a gap that should have been impossible for humans to cross. She used the arena itself as a weapon, collapsing a section of wall onto 3 drones that had tried to corner her. The system registered critical errors. The test parameters were being violated. The human was using tactics outside any known combat doctrine. The adaptive AI could not predict her because she was not following any predictable model. At minute 17, Commander hit the emergency stop. The remaining drones froze. The arena lights came up to full brightness. The environmental systems powered down. The combat proficiency evaluation for Cadet was over. Not because she had lost. Because the combat drones had. Silence filled the observation decks. Then someone whispered a number. The score appeared on the central display, projected in letters 3 meters tall for everyone to see. 97. The highest score in the 200-year history of Apex Citadel. The recorder slipped from his fingers. He did not notice. He was at the arena floor where a tiny, bleeding human stood among the wreckage of 20 combat drones. Had gone pale under his grey skin. The who had thrown 7 times was gripping the railing of the observation deck so hard that the metal was bending. Simply smiled. She had been right not to bet. Walked out of the arena. She did not celebrate. She did not roar in triumph. She walked slowly because her body was damaged. She walked calmly because this was not a surprise to her. She had known what she was capable of. She had simply been waiting for the chance to show everyone else. The crowd parted for her. Aliens who had mocked her for weeks stepped back as she passed. They looked at her with new eyes. Fear, respect, confusion. They had thought they understood humans. They had been wrong. Stopped at the medical station. A medic looked at her wounds with a scanner. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, second-degree burns, severe exhaustion. The medic shook her head. You should not be standing. I know, said, fix me up, I have training tomorrow. The medic stared at her for a long moment. Then she began treatment without another word. In the observation deck, found after the medic finished, the human was sitting alone, drinking water, letting the pain medication do its work. How asked, it was the only word she could manage. Looked up at her, her face was bruised and swollen, one eye was nearly shut, but she was smiling. Humans do not have armor, said. We do not have claws or venom or 4 arms. Evolution did not give us natural weapons, so it gave us something else. She took another drink of water. We adapt, we endure, we find ways to win when winning should be impossible, and we do not stop, ever. But your body, said, you are injured, you should have fallen, you should have surrendered when the pain became too much. Pain is just information, said. My body tells me I am damaged. My mind decides what to do about it. Where I come from, people have run on broken legs. People have fought with bullets inside them. People have survived things that should have killed them 100 times over. She looked at with eyes that held something ancient and terrible. Humans learned a long time ago that the body can keep going long after it wants to quit. We just have to be stubborn enough to force it. Did not know what to say. She had thought she understood the universe. Strong species dominated. Weak species served. It was the natural order. But this human had just broken that order into pieces. And she was only getting started. News of Score spread through Apex Citadel within hours. By the next morning, it had reached Coalition High Command. By the end of the week, every military installation in the galaxy was talking about the human who had broken the Academy's all-time record. The integration initiative transformed overnight. What had been a political joke became a strategic priority. Politicians who had dismissed humans as useless were suddenly requesting briefings on Earth's capabilities. Military commanders who had laughed at the idea of human soldiers were suddenly very quiet. Noticed none of this. She was back in training the day after her evaluation despite her injuries. The medic had told her to rest for a week. She rested for 8 hours and returned to the combat halls. The other cadets treated her differently now, not with friendship, that would take time, but with respect. When she entered a room, conversations stopped. When she walked through the halls, cadets stepped aside. When she sat down to eat, others did not move away. Found her in the mess hall 3 days after the evaluation. The stood awkwardly beside her table, his massive frame shifting with visible discomfort. I have come to apologize, he said. The words came out rough, like they were being dragged from his throat. I bet against you, I called you weak, I was wrong. Looked up at him, she remembered his mockery. She remembered him betting that she would break. She remembered weeks of being treated like a pet animal. Sit down, she said. Sat, the chair groaned under his weight. I have voided my bet, I have told the others that I was a fool. He stared at the table, unable to meet her eyes. In my culture we respect strength above all things. I thought strength meant size, power, muscle. He shook his head slowly. You have shown me I was wrong. Your strength is different, but it is real. I accept your apology. Finally looked at her. I want to train with you, to learn. Whatever you did in that arena, it was beyond anything I have seen. I want to understand it. Then you will have to work hard, and you will have to stop underestimating people because of their size. Lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. I do not think I will make that mistake again, ever. They trained together that afternoon. Taught him about angles and leverage, about using an opponent's strength against them, about fighting smart instead of fighting hard. Learned slowly, but he learned. His respect for the human grew with each session. 1 week after the evaluation, Commander summoned to his office. The commander's quarters were sparse and functional. Weapons lined the walls, battle hung in frames. Everything spoke of a life spent in war. Sat behind his desk, his mechanical eye focused on. His organic eye showed something that might have been curiosity. I have reviewed your records, he said. All of them, including the training sessions you thought no one was watching. Kept her face calm. I assumed someone was always watching. Smart, tell me about Lost Zone 7. Was quiet for a moment. She had known this question would come eventually. Earth has been in a state of near-constant conflict for its entire recorded history. We have wars that lasted for years. Wars that killed millions. Wars over land, resources, religion, ideology, and sometimes things that made no sense at all. How long has your species existed? About 300,000 years. Mandibles clicked, and in that time, how many years of peace? I do not think there has ever been a year without war somewhere on our planet. Was silent, he had conquered worlds, he had led armies, he had seen more death than most species could imagine. But 300,000 years of constant warfare was something even he struggled to comprehend. The techniques you used in the arena, he said slowly, they did not come from any species we have on record. Where did you learn them? Humans developed them, over thousands of years, by fighting each other. His voice was steady. Every move I used has been refined through more conflicts than this academy has existed. The blocks, the counters, the adaptations, they are all things that humans invented to kill other humans more efficiently. Leaned back in his chair. You were not a soldier on Earth. Your records say you were a student. Correct. Then how do you know these things? Smiled slightly. On Earth, we teach combat to children, not full training, not complete techniques, but enough that everyone understands the basics. It is part of our education system, physical training, survival skills. She paused. What I showed in the arena was not special by human standards. Any soldier from Earth could have done better. His organic eye went wide. His mechanical eye flickered rapidly as it processed this information. He had assumed was exceptional among humans, the best of her species, a rare warrior in a race of weaklings. She was not, she was average, an average human student who had never served in any military. And she had just broken the Academy's all-time combat record. The implications were staggering. The Integration Initiative said slowly, there are more humans coming. 12, they arrive next week. Are they like you? Considered the question, some better, some worse, we are individuals not copies. She stood to leave, but none of them will quit, none of them will surrender, and none of them will be what you expect. She left his office, sat alone for a long time thinking about what he had learned. The transport arrived 7 days later, stood on the observation deck and watched it dock. The same dock where she had arrived weeks ago as a joke, the same halls she had walked while aliens laughed at her. 12 humans walked off the transport. They were young, small, soft and fragile-looking they carried single bags and wore simple clothes. They looked around at the massive station and the alien cadets who towered over them. Watched the familiar scene unfold. She heard the whispers starting. She saw the dismissive glances. She knew that somewhere on the station, betting pools were already forming on how long these new humans would last. A cadet near made a sound of contempt. Maury softskins, Maury jokes. At least the first one provided entertainment before she failed. Turned to look at him, he did not recognize her. He had not been at the evaluation. He did not know. The first human scored 97, she said quietly, the highest in Academy history. The froze, his face showed confusion, then disbelief, then something like fear. He looked down at the humans disembarking below. Small, soft, fragile. Deadly. That is impossible, he whispered. It happened, smiled, and those 12 are just like her, maybe worse. She turned back to watch the new arrivals. The galaxy has been underestimating humans for a long time. That mistake will not last much longer. Below, the 12 human cadets moved through the welcome hall. They received the same stares had received, the same contempt, the same assumptions. But this time it was different. This time was watching from above. This time the humans were not alone. This time the aliens had no idea what was about to happen. Descended from the observation deck to meet her fellow humans. As she walked, fell into step beside her, joined them a moment later. A human, an unlikely group united by respect that had been earned through blood and pain. Are you ready to train 12 more? Asked. They will need guidance, but not much. Humans learn fast, we have to. Our world does not wait for the slow. They reached the welcome hall as the new humans were receiving their assignments. Stepped forward, 12 pairs of eyes turned toward her, 12 humans who had been told they were walking into mockery and failure. Smiled, it was a warm smile, a welcoming smile, but underneath it was something sharper, something forged in millions of years of survival. Welcome to Apex Citadel, she said. I am Cadet. I scored 97 on my combat proficiency evaluation, the highest in 200 years. She watched their faces shift from confusion to understanding to determination. The aliens here think humans are weak, they think we are jokes, they think we will fail. She looked at each of them in turn. Young faces, ordinary faces, faces that could have belonged to students or workers or anyone else on Earth. Faces of survivors from a planet that had never known peace. Let us show them how wrong they are. The 12 humans straightened, their eyes hardened. They had come here expecting mockery and they had received a challenge instead. They had come expecting to fail and they had received proof that failure was not inevitable. Behind them, Commander watched from a distance. His mechanical eye recorded everything. His organic eye held something that might have been anticipation. The coalition had invited humans into their military academy as a political gesture, a token offering to a minor species, a joke. They had no idea what they had unleashed. But they were about to find out.